Hello, this is David. Welcome to a video review of chapters assigned in John Gregory's textbook, which is called the XVA Challenge. And this book, the XVA Challenge, is actually the third edition of his book. The first and second book editions were called Counterparty Credit Risk, and they've been in the FRM syllabus for several years, although in recent years, as the editions have been updated, and as counterparty credit risk has ascended in importance, I would say they've taken on more of an important role in the syllabus, with currently, as we speak, quite a few learning objectives that are assigned in Topic 6, Credit Risk of the FRM. This video we're just starting at the beginning here of the chapters that are assigned, and this is Chapter 4, which is Counterparty Risk, which is mostly an introduction to some of the terms that are used in subsequent chapters, including credit exposure, credit migration, recovery, mark-to-market, replacement cost, default probability, loss given default, and the recovery rate. And then you can see we also have identify and describe the different ways institutions can quantify, manage, and mitigate counterparty risk. Okay, but before the first learning objective, there's some material in the chapter that introduces some distinctions here between lending risk and counterparty risk. After all, in Topic 6, credit risk, we're probably more likely to associate with the classical or traditional lending risk. So here we could think about a bank extending a loan or a company issuing a bond, where there is lending risk as the particular sort of credit risk. And so that's different than a lot of the counterparty risk that John Gregory is referring to throughout his book. And so there are a couple of at least key distinctions. If we think about lending risk, if we think about a bond or loan, for example, the notional is typically known, and in fact, we'd usually call that the principal, right? Principal is one way we distinguish between traditional bonds and loans as opposed to notional that is referenced by derivatives. So when the principal is lent or invested, that principal, or as Hull might say, the notional principal is known and fairly stable and easy to predict into the future. And furthermore, the way that we think about this lending risk, it's usually unilateral. It's the lender that's assuming the credit risk, right? So you could also say unilateral there. And that's as opposed to counterparty risk. And counterparty risk, of course, is a subclass of credit risk, right? So our big buckets are market, credit, and operational risk. And then, like the other big buckets, credit risk has many subclasses of risk. So, of course, it's fine to also say counterparty credit risk. We read that as well. And it's fine to say that. It's just perhaps a bit redundant because counterparty risk in general would be a subclass of credit risk. But now, counterparty risk is suggestive of derivative contracts. Suggestive does not necessarily mean that, but it's useful to think about a derivative contract in this sense because of the two differences here.